oftentimes I put the baseball hat on and I play manager and I shuffle the lineup here on the fly here. And since we are home to the world champion Philadelphia Phillies, I'll be Charlie Manuel today. But we do have a lineup change here. Phil Magistro had some schedule challenges, and we have a pinch hitter with Alix Goss, who is the IT project manager for the Governor's Office for Healthcare Reform. And with no further ado, I'm introducing Alix to lead us on the state side of these important initiatives.
Good morning. Janet's remarks were very timely, and I was very glad to hear her recap. I've spent a lot of the last week reading over the stimulus bill, so it's nice to hear a first-hander's view of them, and my take was validated. There's a lot of exciting activity ahead of us. I joined the state just about 6 months ago. Very interestingly enough, on my first week on the job, I got to go to a conference, came to one of Kelly's initiatives, and it's very much of a treat for me to be here today now presenting to you the Governor's Office of Healthcare Reform's information on our statewide health information exchange, which we call FIX. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself since I'm not in the materials. As I said, I joined the state about 6 months ago from my experience prior to that, 15 years as a Medicare Part B contractor, also 5 years as a vendor and consultant after my tenure at a health plan. But most importantly to me has been the last 10 years of my professional career, which has been involved very actively at the federal level. I was formerly the chair of the insurance subcommittee of X12. I was responsible for the development of all the insurance standards in XML and EDI for property and casualty and healthcare. Many of you may know about the 837 claims transaction, et cetera. That was in my realm of responsibility. And on behalf of X12, I played at HITSB. I worked with the Office of E-Health Standards and Services on setting policy, as well as doing technical consulting with them for on my private side of my business that funded all my wonderful volunteer work. So I come with a passion for standards and also collaboration and open consensus and transparency, as ANSI has influenced me very heavily over the last 10 years. So without much more ado, I need an instruction, pretty blatant, okay. Today, what I want to do is go over what we're doing with FIX, or the Pennsylvania Health Information Exchange. I want to talk about our advisory council. As you have heard from Janet, the stakeholder community is extremely important, and this is our broad stakeholder community that has been formed. We also have some advisory council committees that are focused on some specific areas, and I'll talk about those, as well as giving you an overall status of where we're at with the FIX project. I, too, have tried to allocate some time for questions at the end. So I'm not sure who's heard about FIX and who hasn't, so I'm going to do some basics here. It was created by an executive order in March of 2008. It is part of the Governor's prescription for Pennsylvania healthcare reform strategic plan. The executive order for FIX is to create a structure that to develop, implement, and manage our statewide health information exchange. It also forms provision for the advisory council and also provides for health technology advisory organizations. You heard Mark from HIE. They are formally named as one of the recognized advisory bodies. They give us input, research, analysis, and recommendations to help the Governor's Office of Healthcare Reform and FIX move forward with our initiatives in a very thoughtful, prescriptive manner. So let's talk about our model. This will hopefully make a lot of sense to all of you, but let's start out in the bottom right corner. So the healthcare provider requests data for FIX. This is going to assume that the patient has given consent to that clinician to obtain information. They then go to a computer, and an internet web-based application will enable them to log into the system. We'll do all the robust tracking security protocols, authentication. We then can have a provisioning of users, not only for the clinicians but also for the patients, to ensure that we have the appropriate rules and we know who we're talking about. And that will feed us into a master patient index functionality, which will enable records to be returned for viewing And then we have the master big portion of all of this, which is the data use and interoperability. That's the bucket that talks about how to aggregate and display information from disparate information systems. So if you go to the Commonwealth Systems portion of the slide, you'll see that we've got in the yellowish color a whole bunch of different information systems. And those are all the disparate systems representative within the Commonwealth that have critical information about our patients. And so ultimately we want to be able to achieve the goal which is in the stimulus bill of having a lifetime access to an electronic health record. So what we're going to be able to do is by having a web-based application or fix, we will enable an authorized clinician to log on to a system, be granted access by the patient, and to view information that's available electronically. And that information will be returned in the data display that enables that clinician to make further decisions about what they want to look at, maybe even do some trending, and be able to understand the status of that person's health so that they can make a better informed decision, hopefully eliminate unnecessary costs, tests, and be able to render the care in such a way that everybody's happy and we're all more efficient in the end. So what we need to do within the Commonwealth, and what Fix Executive Order is all about, is creating a network, a super highway, if you will, within the Commonwealth that enables us to connect the regional efforts, such as what you're doing with TechQuest or what they're doing in Keystone, Geisinger Land, and then also enable us to connect to the federal level. So what we've done then is that we have healthcare that happens locally. We have a statewide connection so that when you travel around the state, no matter where you're at, you can get information from the appropriate healthcare sources. And then let's say you travel outside the state and you decide to go to Washington, D.C. and something happens, that you could ultimately grant access to someone to look at your records there. And then what you do is you have information exchanged at all the appropriate levels with robust security, and we're all happy. Good with that? Okay. Any questions about this diagram before I go on? Because this is pretty much the nuts and bolts of what you need to understand of what we plan to build, and I'm going to talk about our timelines for building it. But the goal is healthcare happens locally, need to connect all the levels, and need to ensure that it's focused on patient consent and enables the providers to easily work with it within their daily workflows. Yes? That is such an awesome question. No, I'm not. We are assuming that we will have a hybrid architecture. You can have a centralized architecture or a federated architecture. You know, we have too many flavors of organizations, structures, information technology systems, and a level of understanding regarding standards and policies. We can't make it a one-size-fits-all and expect everybody to fit into it. What we believe we need to do is make sure that we have a solution that accommodates the real-world experiences, whether you're in a small hospital like in Lewistown or whether you're in a big hospital like Hershey or Harrisburg. So that's why we wanted to do it as web-based, because pretty much all you'll need is a computer and an internet connection, and hopefully we'll have all the broadband that we need. And then what will happen is it'll be scalable. So if you are a practice that's pretty robust and has gotten your electronic medical record structure in place, you would be able to actually import the information from the view that you would have retrieved from the internet access, and then be able to import that into your version of your medical record. We're not going to touch any of the original sources of data. That needs to maintain intact. We're not going to mess with that. So people may create edge servers to feed us. They might want to do a daily update or to a repository if they choose to want to handle it that way and not have people hitting their systems on a daily basis. Or they might be very large, like a UPMC, and be able to handle the infrastructure and the response times to give us real-time feeds that enable us to pull back that aggregated view for real-time healthcare delivery.